Hey everyone, in this video, I'll cover system design for data engineers. So what I've done is I've come up with a business use case and five different designs to solve the same problem with changing requirements. So the idea is to help people understand how you can design system in most efficient way with based on the requirements. So in design, there is no right or wrong answer. It's all about trade-offs. So you would pick the components based on your use case, considering cost, end-to-end latency, data volume, all that stuff. So let's dive into it. So the business problem that we are tracking here is to track the time spent by user on your web application. Let's say you are part of a company where your company has web app like Facebook and you want to track the time spent by user on your application. So the first use case is for you to design a batch pipeline that runs every 1 hour or every 24 hours and reports the time spent by user on your application. For this first use case, assume you're a small startup where you don't have, millions of users. We are just probably serving like few thousands of users. So if you're tasked with something like this, then what you can probably do is you can just use a simple script. You don't even have to use big data processing frameworks like Spark or anything. You can just use a script, schedule your script to run once an hour or once a day, pull the logs from your EC2. EC2 is basically the backend for your web app where the logs are stored. And also I've put like a sample log format here. Assume you'll get the user ID, session ID, and the timestamp. Whenever you user logs in and another event, log event whenever user logs out. And your job is to basically find the difference between these two timestamps so that you can get the time spent by user in that session. So that's the use case. For the first part, first use case, you don't even have to use Spark or anything. You can probably run your script once an hour, once a day, pull the logs from EC2, do the calculation, and then you can, for the output, you can directly write the data to some kind of RDS, maybe MySQL database or something, and have your dashboard, Tableau or QuickSight connected to that MySQL database as well. So this would basically solve your business use case. And if you notice here, we are not even using any big data tools, and that's fine. You don't have to always use Spark or some kind of big data processing frameworks. If you can solve it with, simple frameworks, simple scripts, you should do it. So that's the first use case. It's very straightforward. But adding a bit complexity to it will take us to the second use case. Let's say your startup is doing good and you have scaled, or your company has scaled its infrastructure. Let's say you have a bunch of servers that are supporting your application. How would you do it? In this case, you still like the business still wanted the metrics at a batch level, let's say hourly level. What would be the change from one to two? Is now that you will have to probably use some kind of big data tool like Spark. Here I've put AWS service glue. Glue basically uses Spark. There are slight differences, but you can assume this as a Spark engine. So what you can do is you can schedule this Spark or Glue script to pull the data from all the EC2 instances, pull the logs every hour, and write it to some kind of object store like S3. Here, the change is that we have moved away from relational database to big data store or object store like S3. So that's it's scalable. As the data grows, indexing and all will be hard in RDS, and also scaling will be hard. So you'll probably pick something like S3 and have your Tableau dashboard or QuickSight run the queries on S3. So as you grow big, you have seen That's when like big data frameworks and object stores will come into the picture. But even this is not ideal approach, because here what you're doing is every hour you're hitting EC2 instance, pulling the data from EC2 and writing it to S3. Basically, you're adding um, additional bandwidth on your machines, which serves customers, right? And you don't want to do it. So in that, what you'll do is you will add a layer, additional layer in between, where you will probably have some kind of agents on your servers, like Logbeat or Cloud Agent, or some agent on your servers where it basically streams your logs to S3, and then your glue, instead of directly reading from your backend machines, it can read from S3 as well. So here S3 will serve as a raw layer for your logs data. So even if you have to use this data for some other purposes, you can directly read from this S3 bucket instead of going to the EC2 instance directly. So another major difference is here, if some other use case needs this log data, you probably have to build another pipeline reading from EC2 that adds additional bandwidth, uses additional bandwidth, network bandwidth on EC2. So in order to serve multiple use cases, basically you can add additional layer where you will stream the logs from EC2, put it into S3, and S3 will basically start as serving layer for all your use cases. So that's the major difference here. And then you can use the same Spark script and S3 as storage and use your dashboards running the queries on S3. So these are the batch scenarios. Now that we have covered batch use cases, let's also cover real-time use case. Let's say your business want to see the same metrics in real time. Then how would you go about designing it? Um, Assume that your business wants even your dashboard to refresh, every 1 minute or every 5 minutes. So the tools like Tableau and QuickSet doesn't offer refreshes at lower frequency. So you probably will also have to think of a service that works, that refreshes every 1 minute, and also update your data store accordingly. So let's go for the next use case. So here, one change that I have done is to use OpenSearch instead of S3. And also for the output, assume you will be using dashboarding tool like Grafana that lets you refresh at lower frequencies. Grafana works well with OpenSearch, so that's the reason for picking OpenSearch. Here the difference is, instead of S3, what we are doing is we are streaming the logs to Kinesis stream, and then the main change is that we have moved away from glue batch pipeline to glue streaming pipeline, because we want to aggregate or transform the data in real time. So that's the reasoning for picking the glue streaming here. So you get the logs, they get streamed to Kinesis. Glue streaming consumes Kinesis streams in real time, transforms it, aggregates it, and puts the data to OpenSearch. And your Grafana dashboard queries OpenSearch every 10 seconds or every 1 minute based on your use case. So if you notice the difference, basically we have changed the way we are ingesting the data, changed our processing framework, changed our output layer as well. So this is the real-time pipeline, and sometimes you don't even have to use streaming frameworks as well, like big data streaming frameworks as well. Let's say you are trying to solve a use case where you don't have to correlate two different events. In the current use case, what we are trying to do is we are trying to track the time spent by user. Basically, you would do the difference between timestamps based on the user ID and session ID. Basically, that's the correlation that you're trying to do in your processing layer. But let's say if your use case just wants to see the number of hits on your page, where you don't even have to look at other event. in that case, you probably doesn't even need glue streaming. You can directly use a service like AWS Lambda. Lambda is serverless compute provided by AWS, where you can use the same ingestion pattern where you get the streams into Kinesis, and your Lambda uses Kinesis streams in real time, and it probably does enrichment or something. Maybe you add a country information or certain additional fields based on user ID or something, and then you put the data into OpenSearch. Here we are not even using glue streaming, so I also wanted to cover that as well. So based on your use case, you will pick components, tools, storage layer accordingly. You want to think about the cost, you want to think about scalability. Maintenance is another important thing. Let's say if you don't have to use complex frameworks, let's say like streaming, then use simple service like Lambda. So that will help you maintain better. And also, obviously, end-to-end latency is another thing. So there are a bunch of important aspects that you need to keep in mind before you design a pipeline. I hope this is helpful. I'll try to make more videos in system design scenario, where I'll pick a sample use case and we'll try to design it in multiple ways, so that you can see the different options and also understand the trade-offs. Um, Also, if you're not familiar with AWS services, that's fine too. Moving forward, I'll make it very generic, so that it's easily understandable as well. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Thanks. Bye.